of each year or any day school is in session, and is requested by Mayor Brian De Peña. Are you here for that too?
Good evening. I'm happy to elaborate. Odanis Hernandez, 13 Pembroke Drive, also CEO for Lawrence Public Schools. The request comes in collaboration with the mayor's office to create an ordinance that it allows the school parking, that it allows the city-owned parking within the schoolyard or within the schools to be for staff only during the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. As the city is very congested and there's parking concerns or parking issues, usually citizens around our school, around the school area, tend to park, which is allowed. However, it has been the experience the next day, and especially during snow removal, that is very difficult to be able to work in for residents to move their cars, to allow for cleaning of the snow, just to allow for cleaning, or to allow for staff and others to come and be able to park, to be able to start the day.
So this is a request for all the schools.
It will be a request to be a consistency across the city, where there, it is in all city lots that are, adjacent or within school property or school area, that, yes, that it will be appropriate signage, where it would just say school staff only or staff only during the hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Correct.
So where the staff is parking right now?
Staff.
Any place, or there are assigned parking at the school, or?
So not all of our school buildings have parking, within the area. So for example, because it's very vivid in my head right now, let's talk about the Arlington School, for example. Within the Arlington School, behind the schoolyard, there's a section for parking. So because that's within the school itself, the building, and there's gates, we can control that. So usually staff will park in a section of that. But around the Arlington School, there's 3 parking locations, 3 lots that are all of our buildings belong to the city, but are city-owned, so I can kind of just for the sake of specifying. So then that's been, historically, that has been for staff parking. Staff will park there. There's one behind the school. There's a small parking lot there. There's one on Arlington Street, and there's one next that we just collaborated and paved. So the staff, it will be assigned to staff during the school day and during the school year. And then at night, after 6 p.m., when staff is done, and again, we need to understand a lot of our schools are used for community events, report card night, family night. So that's why the 6 p.m. it allows for staff to finish the day at 2:45, 2:50, 3 p.m. And if there's report card night, any activities, family nights, they can still be there. And then after 6, they will leave, and then residents that live in the area, that maybe their homes or apartments do not have a parking space, and they're allowed, or they come in and then they park there. And then the next morning, they know that's already some sort of understanding that, that's kind of like a thing that is happening. So they would come and they would get up, and usually they're getting ready for work anyway, so they would get up, come and remove their cars, and then staff starts arriving. Some staff start to arrive at school anywhere between 6:30, 6:45 in the morning, so that's also why the request to be at 6 a.m. So for example, that's one example, and then that's still not enough. There's still not enough parking spaces for staff. That's a school that holds 1,200 students. So then we double the staffing for that. So then the staff would also park within the neighborhood on Spruce Street, on Arlington, wherever there's designated parking spaces that allows them. And that is true, for example, let's talk about the Frost, for example. Although it has, within the school, it also has parking spaces. That would, but it's also not enough for the staff in there, so staff would park around the area on Hamlet Street, on Frost Drive, on Jefferson, so they would park around the area anyways. So that's what we're seeking, or we're looking to do. The Weatherby has a section that is parking, that is also shared with neighbors right next door. So it would also be, that example will be for staff during 6 and 6, and then after that, then the neighbors can come and park.
On the Arlington community area that you mentioned, who is using those parking spaces that you're talking about?
A lot, staff, and then after hours, residents, a lot of residents. Who? I mean, I'm gonna make the assumption that, if anyone is renting around there and the property does not come with parking and it's off-street parking, and especially during the winter, it's really congested and it's really an issue during the winter, then they will park there.
Do you know if those spaces also people pay for that?
Not us. We don't charge. The school doesn't charge for the.
Well, but the community use those parking spaces that you are talking about that is belong to the city, no?
Right, I would say yes. Yep, I would answer yes to that.
There is someone there
No, not to my knowledge.
that collect any pay, like the same one that we have it right here?
Not to my knowledge.
Council, do you have any question?
Yeah, and not to my knowledge, because I'm not sure if those were specific, I'm not sure of the entire history of this, so I apologize for not having all the right answers or the right information. I'm happy to go back and seek information. But my understanding is because they're so near or so close to the school, it was kind of like designated for school staff parking, and then during, different administrations and during the congested time and the difficult times that we face with parking issues across the city, that then, that was kind of like that understanding, unspoken rule, where it's school staff, and then it opens up to the residents. That, to my knowledge, school is not collecting any rent. To my knowledge, the city is not collecting. I don't see anyone. I have not witnessed anyone being there. The mayor is very supportive of this item, and, we, the school staff, facilities, we do that work, especially like and we're safety officers that belong to the area and to the school. We do kind of like, we manage, together we work collaborative, and with DPW to, if the winter comes and they're still parking, and, we work together to identify the cars. We go knocking on the properties, on the people's houses, and say, hey, can you kindly, oh my God, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot, I overslept, I'm changing and, I'm moving my car. So, it allows for the school to be able to come in and plow and do what they need to do.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, the language inside the memo speaks only to the school property and not to the sidewalks or outside of the school boundaries. So I'm just wanting to make sure that the intent of this is to just allow within school property, within the boundaries of school property, that this is happening and not outside, like on a sidewalk or outside of the fence line. Can you clarify that?
I'm sorry, sure, through you, Madam Chair. We do not park on the sidewalk, but I think that the intent of this and the conversations was to continue to have the lots available as we've had now, not just the lots within the school building or within the school property, but more so even like as the Arlington neighborhood that I described, even those lots.
So it sounds like there's two phases of this. The first phase is inside a school lot, or maybe there's a playground or a school, but there's asphalt, and that's area right there. It sounds like this is what this is looking to address. And there's probably some merit to that. You don't want to have a bunch of people who are residents parking on the school parking lot during the school day. And this would certainly, this is, I think, something that I can support. The other part that remains unanswered, Madam Chair, through you, is the other locations. My experience is on the Breen School, and so when you go down Andover Street, and you can go head first, where there was once a sidewalk is now being used for parking. That's outside of the fence line and is on a public way. This proposal does not appear to me to address that. I think this is a good step. We have to define what the school's properties are for the ordinance, and then say that within the school boundaries, between the hours you've just mentioned, in this 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., that there's no parking inside the school property, but it doesn't, I'm not sure what's going on at the Frost, I'm not sure what's going on at the Weatherby, I'm not sure what's going on in those places. Are they parking on Jefferson and Frost Road? Are those dedicated parking for teachers or staff along the streets as well, on the street?
Not dedicated parking, no.
When I say dedicated parking, with a sign that says staff only, okay.
Not on the street, no.
All right, so this, I think, is a good effort for part of it. I will tell the council, I'm really pleased that the mayor's taking this seriously, because I do think this is a significant step in the right direction. When I brought this to the administration, part of the issue that I saw was that there were signs on public ways, on Andover Street, for example, that said no parking from 6 to 6, or staff only. And I asked, the city council is responsible for creating ordinances. How did that happen? How did a sign get put up on Andover Street if the city council didn't have it, and who put that sign up? And I think I know why, but I wanted to clean that up a little bit, so that we collectively need to make that decision. And you just can't have somebody with a hammer and ability to make signs, posting signs, without our approval, and that's our jurisdiction, right? So I think this is a good first step. I think there needs to be a second step, and that is, and my only experience is maybe Breen's the only one. I don't know. Maybe there's other places. I didn't do a survey of all the schools to figure out where there are issues, but I know there was one in my district, right? So, did you want to comment? Through you, Madam Chair, would you wish to comment, Ms.
Yes,
Hernandez?
Madam Chair. So, the Breen, there's no longer a fence at the Breen. That's one of the new projects. One of the projects this summer, we repaved that entire section, so it's now open. So that section, so for example, that's a good example, right? So it looks like it's a sidewalk, so is that school property, or is that the city? So I think this was intended to address all of that. We're not having any issues with people or residents, for example, at the Frost or the Weatherby, where it's the designated staff parking are within the perimeters of the school. We're not having issues there. I think the concern arises from the Breen, but then also touches upon what happens at the Arlington neighborhood. And I have to admit, I may need to do a drive around all the schools to make sure that it doesn't happen anywhere else, but we do not have, like on the street section itself, like the tar box does not have a parking, and there's no lots. There's a lot around there, so that will be a section, or that will be an area where we would, where this would be applicable. So maybe it was in the way that the memo was submitted or the language, maybe I missed or we missed adding any city-owned and or within, or nearby school property. So I'm not sure if the next best step is to amend table for us to have an opportunity to go back and rediscuss with the mayor and then submit the appropriate language. So I would take your advice for next steps. Definitely will be to address the situation like the brain and to keep intact what is happening at the Arlington neighborhood with those parking lots that are not within the school, but.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think we need to be more clear. What we don't want to do is compound a mistake with a mistake. We want to correct it, right? Because once this domino falls, there are other dominoes around the city with respect to parking signs that are telling people they can or can't park there, which we as a council have not approved. And so this is the first one, and how we deal with this will determine how we deal with the other ones. So we need to do this right. And I'm not blaming this administration at all. He may have inherited all this stuff that we're seeing all over the place. And now that somebody's has caught the attention, right, of at least the counselor and perhaps more, now we need to do the right things and square it up. So all that being said, I guess the point here is, what should we do? This memo is relatively unclear because now we're parsing words like, what is a sidewalk? What is a school property? Where does that begin and end? Now we're parsing, right? This council gets to make the decision as to what we want to do, how we define it, but this is not our proposal. This is coming from the mayor's office. So we need to know exactly what it is how they define it, or we can define it ourselves, but this is not coming from us. This is coming from the third floor, right? So what do I recommend? Unfortunately, because I do want to see some action, and I'm willing to listen to other counselors, my recommendation eventually would be to table with instructions to review the proposal, define the terms, what is school property, and then get more of an idea of what impacts, because we don't want to take a vote without knowing what the impacts are. If you come back and say there are 20 schools that have street parking like this, and then we say take those out, we didn't approve them, well, now we got a bit of a problem in our hands because we don't have teacher problems, we have neighbor problems, so we got to make sure we're doing it right. So that would be my intent, my recommendation. And I'm not going to make the motion in case other councilors wish to speak.
Did you want to speak, Council? Council de la Cruz?
I have a question for Ms. Ordinance.
Yes?
My question is, between 6 o'clock in the afternoon and the next day, 6 o'clock in the morning, what's going to happen with the snow parking situation? Because as you know, a lot of streets, they don't have parking spaces. Then when the snow comes, will those people be told just because they park overnight?
Through you, Madam Chair. So this would allow, once I provide more information or there's more clarity, if this were to pass, this would allow for anyone after 6 a.m. if there's resident cars there after 6 a.m. Our intent initially is to try to work and identify the vehicle, and it's usually the same folks. So school staff usually has, like the custodian, facilities and safety usually have a really good understanding or knowledge who the car belongs to. So our first attempt is to work with the families, make sure, reach them, give them the opportunity to move their vehicle. And that happens often. It was 1 knock, 2 knocks, 3 knocks that would try to mitigate the situation. By doing this, the proper signage and proper approval then would allow for us to then work with the Lawrence Police Department for towing.
Councilor De La Cruz?
Okay, I heard, thank you.
So, no, and I think also that you mentioned, the using of the parking lot that is belong to the city, but maybe those parking lot are not part of the school. So, it's city owned, but it's not, and according to what we had in here, it's like a city owned school property. That's the only thing that they mention over here. They don't mention to use any of the parking lot owned by the city. There is any comment on this regard? A motion to table is on the table right now. Can I have a second?
I was hoping to make a motion to instruct the terms and then make a motion to table.
Okay. Can you drop your motion? Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we sent, and I will follow up personally with this, but we sent correspondence to the mayor's office and copy the school, school administration, as well as the DPW. So to the mayor, copy school and DPW, with respect to defining the terms of this memorandum. What is school property? And what if that's number one, if the school property is defined outside of the footprint of the fenced school property and goes off into the street, does this proposal also include off-street parking alongside the schools? Does that make sense? Got that? So that's my motion, that we send those questions to clarify the proposal with those answers.
Council President, do we need to send this also to the city attorney?
Eventually we would, but I don't think that we know what it is we're giving to the city attorney yet. We need to tell the city attorney, this is what we're looking for in this ordinance. And until we get that information, I'm not so sure what is school property, what does that mean? Until we get that answer from the administration, the city attorney's going to have the same question. Well, how am I crafting this ordinance? What do you mean by school property? We've heard a couple of different things this evening, and we just need to get clarification on that before we can instruct the city attorney to draft the ordinance.
Okay. So there is a motion on the table. Can I hear a second? Second. Motion is already second. Roll call. Councilor De La Cruz. Councilor De La Cruz. Yes. Councilor Selena Reyes. Yes. Councilor President de la Plan.
Yes.
And myself say yes. So motion is already carried. Yes. I already say yes.
Is there a motion to table?
Motion to table, yes.
Second.
Motion to table is already second. All those in favor? Councilor De La Cruz? Yes. Councilor Selena Reyes? Yes. Councilor President de la Plan?
Yes.
And myself say yes.
Thank you, councilors.
Welcome. So there is another item that Councilor, you would like to take out of the table. There is no item to take it out from table, so motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is already second, so thank you all and good night.